Hello, I'm at my house in the south of England. It's my happiest place. And I was just on the phone with the Minikai guys, and we had some accounts receivable that was outstanding. And when I ran Tiger Spike, we had 8 offices around the world. Each one had its own GM who was running it, and they all ran it with a high degree of autonomy. I think that's why we managed to grow so well, because we gave people a lot of autonomy and let them run their own P&Ls and run things how they wanted to do it. We didn't have many centralized things. So what we did was, that let me have an experiment where I could see 8 different people doing things a different way. And everyone has accounts receivable, right? So this is people who owe you money and you have to collect it. And normally they would say it's overdue and you'd have, this much money and it's, 30 days overdue, 60 days. So your debtor days are, 30, 60, 90 or whatever it is. It's how long people take to pay you money. And a lot of the time, especially in startups, cash is really important and you need to get that money in. And I thought I'd do a really quick note on accounts receivable and how to get the money in. Because what I saw at some of my offices, it was done really well. And at some of the offices, it wasn't done well. And when I went and asked them why, it kind of surprised me, but I'll share it with you now. The guys who collected the money the best were friends with the accounts receivable people. So if you're doing business, and we were a B2B business company where our biggest customers were worth millions of dollars, but even our smaller ones were like 100K or so. And when people owe you money, if you're friends with the person at the company that owes you money, they can pay you earlier. If you like them, sometimes they'll pay you the money early. And at the very least, they'll pay you on time. So my biggest piece of advice for accounts receivable is have somebody in your company collect it and have them be friends with whoever's releasing the money at the other customer's end. Know who they are, like them, find some things in common with them, know the names of their spouses and kids, find a hobby that you like in common, and then you'll be close to them. And when you send them an invoice, you can call them up and have a nice chat with them. You won't always be able to be like super best friends with them, so there's a procedure you can do, and you can probably put this into AI if you wanted to. But what happened with some of the offices is, the payment terms were, whatever they were, 30 days. And they'd ring them up when the payment hadn't come in after 30 days. And they'd say, well, where's the money? And then the person at the other end would say, oh, it's not in my system. And then it'd be in the system and it'd be another 30 days, especially the big corporates. The big corporates will lock down how they use their cash flow, so they won't be able to release it early. But what you need to know is that your invoice is in their system. So the way you do it is you have a procedure which is non-negotiable. And it is, you send the invoice to the customer, and then that day you ring them up and say, did you receive my invoice? Speaking to them on the phone, right? Don't do it on email. I suppose you can automate the email, but then they take a while to get back to you. So, did you get my invoice? Is it in your system? Because they have to put their invoices in the system and then the system pays it. And if it is, fantastic. So what I would then do is ring them up 5 days later. So a week later, ring them again and say, just reconfirming that our invoice has been received and is in your system. And then they'll say, yes, or whatever it is. Or sometimes they'll say no, and they'll say, oh, shit, okay, I'll put it in the system. After that, you can kind of leave it until they pay. And if they don't pay, you ring up and say, hey, where's my invoice? How come you haven't paid it yet? But the key is making sure that you pay and make sure it's in the system. Now, most people would have 30-day payment terms for some reason. They'll just say, oh, I'll have 30-day payment terms. Make it 15 days. Have them pay on credit card if it's small enough, because then it comes off straight away immediately. You don't have to keep reminding them. But not everyone will pay 15 days. Some of the big guys are like, no, we don't. We pay 30 days or 60 days. But some will pay. So have small payment terms like 15 days, and some people will pay, some people won't. And you can do that on a case-by-case basis. But yeah, in summary, have that procedure where you call them when you send it, call them 5 days later, keep reconfirming. Sometimes it'll be a week before. There's another phone call you can do just a week before, saying, just confirming next week you're going to be paying and releasing the money. And if you do that well, you will not have long debtor days. You'll get the money in quickly. And if you don't, if you do what most people do, which is just send an invoice and then call in 31 days saying, where's my money, you will have trouble with it. And so it's just worth having those little processes and have someone who's kind of in charge of it, who gets to know and likes the person on the other end of it. Anyway, that's how some of my offices did it well and some didn't. So good luck. It's important. Cash is super important. Like, it's, you know, your cash terms is very important, and collecting the cash is super important, because, you know, I've had a couple of companies gone bust. The only reason a company ever goes bust, ever, is it runs out of cash. That's the only thing. There can't be any other reason. And if you run out of cash, you know, that's the end of it, right? So you've got to make sure that you are tight with this stuff. And yeah, like I said, I suppose you can automate it now with AI, but I still favor somebody calling. Good luck.